Okay, next one. Okay, cool idea. I'm thinking that definitely some body mechanic problems here as well. We'll kind of try to touch on that a little bit in a second, but let's talk about the story. The story is interesting. I'm not getting the, like, I don't, where's the setup that it's a rehearsal, for instance? There's no real evidence in the set or anything, no audio, so it's just, it's kind of, I don't, if I wasn't told this was I keep saying rehearsal all the time. Just every time I say rehearsal, just substitute it for audition. If I wasn't told this was an audition, I wouldn't know, which is kind of a problem in my mind. It's part of the challenge. When the theme is chosen, it's nice to try to find a way of connecting it to that theme because it's going to resonate a little bit better. So, like for instance, the gun going off, try to put in some proxy effects. That's always a good idea, especially when there's an important storytelling element. Another good, this would probably be a good reason to have some audio as well, perhaps. Just something, like don't ever have something in your animation that is that you can't support in some way. Like if it's an important storytelling beat or moment, make sure that it's got the proper support. So whether that's some sort of like temporary proxy effect for like the gun, the muzzle flash, whether that's some sort of audio, anything that can help dress it up and make sure that those beats aren't lost would be kind of important. Body mechanic wise, let's take a look at just a little bit. So notice what you're doing here on these steps. This one's actually, the first step is better than the other ones because the weight is shifting onto that foot, but then the weight continues to shift all the way onto that foot that planted in order to let the other foot come down. But then the next shift happens and you end up in your maximum shift position when the contact happens. There's no real transfer there. You always want to make sure the foot plants and then the transfer completes. Never like you didn't leave yourself any room here to continue the transfer because the weight is already on that foot. So little things like that are going to be kind of important to polish up. Here's a good moment here where you just see the kind of very stiff spine and like the arms coming down and bouncing, but like there's no real support from the spine, any of that. So, yeah, it's a good start. I think you need a better context, a better framing, an actual, the gag here is of course that he's trying to be a tough guy. I'm not necessarily buying the fact that he's a real tough guy. I think you could play this up a little bit more. And then he pulls out the gun. He's all being fancy and he's like getting ready to pull the trigger and he's like, oh. I mean, there's that part too. Like, I almost feel like you need a camera cut or something to show like that he pulls a trigger and it just clicks and nothing happens. Because I can't see from this angle at all. There's nothing showing me that part of the gag. So I don't really get, like, is the gun jammed or is he out of bullets? Like, what is it? So, I mean, I could go on forever. I can't because I'm supposed to keep these short, which I've been doing a terrible job on. So I'm going to move on. Okay, what's this one? So, similar thing here. I don't get the context. There's no subtext. I don't get it's an audition at all. There's nothing there giving me that indication. I think it'd be kind of cool if this was maybe like, if we understood that this was a mirror and maybe he was like rehearsing for an audition. Something that kind of framed the whole thing. Right now, it's just this moment that's isolated and it has no weight to it. There's no context. So I just find myself having a hard time getting into it because there's just nothing for me to get into. Because I don't really get what he's doing, you know? So there's some body mechanics stuff to be talked about as well. Same thing with the weight shifting here. Weight shift happens all the way here on it's maximum weight shift onto the same frame where the foot makes contact with the ground. Classic mistake. You really want to work on your weight shifts. And I just don't get the gag. Like for instance, like this happens so fast. He pulls it, like I don't even get the gun went off, and like I don't know, it just kind of falls flat. It's like it's a cool idea, but probably not really great execution. So what you want to do is always have an idea in your head and think about what's the best way of telling my audience this. How can I frame the camera? Do I need camera cuts, or can I choose one camera angle that can tell the whole story? Will they understand the story that's in my head? And is that story in my head interesting? Now, that's the hardest part, I think. It's not always easy. You can try it on your friends or your family members. You can maybe sketch it on a storyboard, maybe try some ideas first. This can be maybe the hardest. I'm making it sound easy when I know it's not. Ooh, this is gonna take forever. I was aiming at 30 seconds per, but then I feel like 30 seconds is so cheap and so quick. Same thing here. I mean, I get the fact that it looks like he's introducing himself, which is kind of gives me some sort of feeling. There's like, I think maybe this is the idea is that there's tape on the ground here, but I think you need a little bit more than that to try to explain to me that there is there's with the guy shooting the bald eagle, take a hint from him. He went and spent a lot of time, or I'm assuming it's a him. It might be a him, her, they. I don't know who it was, but the point is that person had the right idea by filling a set with the context or the subtext or whatever you want to call that. That is a good idea. My problem was they filled the set with those things, but then the action itself and the story, the actual performance didn't really feel like it fit into that. Like I just felt like completely arbitrary, where I think you kind of need to do both. You want to be able to like set the stage, but also play the performance that the stage commands. Here you have sort of an inkling of that, but I don't really get it exactly. I also don't really know the punchline. He comes in, he waves, and he comes in, and he's, I don't know. I don't hate it. It's just it's not entertaining me. It's not. There's no micro story here. There's nothing to hook me. It's just a person acting in front of the camera, and without really kind of knowing the stakes at all and knowing what's really going on here. It like if I knew this person was really trying to get an audition and was just trying to impress someone, maybe it would make a bit more sense. But I guess I'm missing out all that. And I'm trying to look at these pretending like I don't necessarily know that it's an audition in a way. Like I know that it's important because we need some sort of subtext or like something to hang a story around, some sort of narrative. But I'm kind of, again, I'm trying to look at this like as if I'm looking at it for the first time.